Donald Trump just had a full-blown meltdown, and this time his targets are Beyoncé, Bruce Springsteen, and Kamala Harris. Yes, really, but here's the twist, they're not backing down. They're striking back, and what unfolds next is a wild ride of shade, truth bombs, and one seriously rattled ex-president. Let's start with Kamala.
Now, of course, I recognize that America has never fully lived up to these ideals, that for all the gains we've made, the American dream has for decades been slipping further out of reach for so many, and that the American people deserve leaders who make their lives better and make our country stronger. But sadly, we have seen quite the opposite over these past few months.
Kamala didn't just speak, she surgically dismantled the MAGA myth with a smile. She's pointing out the obvious. America should be better, but instead of lifting people up, Trump was too busy inflating his ego and his golf scores. And that jab about leaders who make lives better. Trump probably heard that one and went straight to posting in all caps from the bathroom. And the best part, this clip isn't done dragging him yet.
Now, I know tonight's event happens to coincide with the 100 days after the inauguration, and I'll leave it to others to give a full accounting of what has happened so far. But I will say this: instead of an administration working to advance America's highest ideals, we are witnessing the wholesale abandonment of those ideals. And what we are also seeing in these last 14 weeks is Americans using their voice and showing their courage.
Kamala is laying it out like a State of the Union for adults. And unlike Trump's sweaty teleprompter ramblings, this one actually makes sense. She's right. Trump's White House wasn't leading with values. It was more like a garage sale of democracy. Ideals, abandoned, promises, ghosted, and in their place. Golf trips, Twitter tantrums, and tariffs so dumb they make gas station sushi look like a good idea. Even Trump's own base is quietly realizing it. He doesn't fix problems. He just creates new ones, blames Taylor Swift, and calls it leadership. Speaking of which,
what does President Trump mean when he says that Taylor Swift is no longer hot?
Look, he is speaking about Taylor Swift's political views and how perhaps it has impacted the support of the American public for her work, and I will leave it at that.
Yep, that happened. And of course he meant it. The President of the United States is now beefing with Taylor Swift because apparently her political opinions make her not hot anymore. As if America was waiting on Trump's Yelp review of pop stars. It's weird, it's cringy, and it's 100% Trump. Attack a woman for having political opinions and then turn it into some bizarre middle school level insult. But here's the real reason he's spiraling. Bruce Springsteen, yes, the boss, publicly torched Trump in a brutal concert rant we'll get to shortly. And now Trump's so deep into his celebrity revenge tour that he's dragging Kamala Harris into a bonkers conspiracy theory involving celebrity endorsements. Brace yourself. This next article he's referencing is peak paranoia.
Trump demands major investigation into Beyoncé and Springsteen appearances at Kamala Harris rallies in late-night rant. Donald Trump escalated his feud against Bruce Springsteen in a late-night all-caps rant calling for an investigation into the legendary rocker's performance at a Kamala Harris rally last fall. Springsteen kicked off his Land of Hope and Dreams tour last week by saying the U.S. was in the hands of a corrupt, incompetent, and treasonous administration, leading the president to fire back that Springsteen was a dried-out prune of a rocker who ought to keep his mouth shut.
You really can't make this up. Trump is now demanding a federal investigation into Bruce Springsteen and Beyoncé because nothing screams presidential priorities like declaring war on the cast of the Super Bowl halftime show. Springsteen says Trump is corrupt, and Trump's brilliant response, "No you," but louder, and in all caps. This isn't politics. It's a sad garage band tour of Trump's bruised ego. And if you think that was unhinged, oh, buckle up, because the meltdown that comes next is pure MAGA mayhem.
After the boss responded at his show Saturday by calling Trump an unfit president whose administration was persecuting people for their right to free speech and voicing their dissent, Trump once again used social media to accuse Springsteen, along with Beyoncé, Oprah Winfrey, and Bono, of making illegal contributions to Harris's campaign. How much did Kamala Harris pay Bruce Springsteen for his poor performance during her campaign for president? Trump wrote. Why did he accept that money if he is such a fan of hers? Isn't that a major and illegal campaign contribution? What about Beyoncé? And how much went to Oprah and Bono? I am going to call for a major investigation into this matter.
This is Trump in full meltdown mode, folks. He's now spiraling so hard he's roping in Bruce Springsteen, Beyoncé, Oprah, and Bono, and accusing them of making illegal campaign contributions to Kamala Harris because they performed, spoke out, or simply exist while being against him. Let's be clear, this isn't a legal theory. It's a deeply insecure man throwing names at a wall, hoping one of them sticks. How much did Kamala pay Bruce for his poor performance? He said, Bruce's music sells out stadiums, not fundraisers, Donald, and accusing Oprah of being part of a political crime ring? That's not campaigning. That's the plot of a rejected Netflix satire. The man is spiraling so hard, it's like watching a political version of a Real Housewives reunion, but with more conspiracy and way less self-awareness. And next, strap in, because Trump's final freakout over Kamala Harris is his most unhinged yet.
A senior advisor and spokesperson for the Harris campaign told Deadline that the campaign did not pay for celebrity support. Oprah Winfrey has previously said she was not paid a dime for the town hall she hosted. Deadline and other outlets reported instead the campaign paid her company, Harpo Productions, to provide sets, lights, cameras, microphones, crews, producers, and even the chairs used during the live event. I did not take any personal fee, Winfrey wrote. However, the people who worked on that production needed to be paid, and were. End of story. Trump nevertheless claimed in his post that Harris had paid for the endorsement. Candidates aren't allowed to pay for endorsements, which is why Kamala did under the guise of paying for entertainment. His social media post continued, "It's not legal for these unpatriotic entertainers. This was just a corrupt and unlawful way to capitalize on a broken system."
So let's get this straight. Oprah doesn't get a single dime, but because she had the audacity to support Kamala Harris, Trump is suddenly Inspector Gadget for campaign finance crimes? Give me a break. He's flailing around shouting corruption like he didn't just score a luxury private jet. That's basically a flying bribe. But sure, Beyonce's the problem? Who's really gaming the system here? The woman who rented a production crew? Or the guy flying around in a golden ego machine while pretending Pam Bondi is some kind of legal expert instead of his actual sock puppet? Even Republicans are starting to whisper, maybe this is a bit much, like Rand Paul did, right here.
So we heard from Steve Witkoff. I know you've raised concerns about this gift of this Qatari jet. He says the Qataris are giving it simply because they've decided to donate something because of all the wonderful things that we've done for them in the past. Do you buy that the Qataris don't expect anything in return for a $400 million gift?
I guess, first of all, I think my fear is that it detracts from a largely successful trip where the president's talking about opening up and doing more trade with the Middle East, which is a good thing, particularly amidst all the protectionism and directing away from trade that we've had going on. I would say that we sell more arms than any other country in the world. We are the largest arms merchant in the entire world, and a lot of those arms go to Gulf sheikdoms and monarchies like the Qataris. Those decisions are made by the executive branch. We have a veto power in Congress, and I've been part of vetoing or trying to veto arms before to Qatar as well as to Saudi Arabia over human rights abuses. So could it color the perception of the administration if they have a $400 million plane to be more in favor of these things? Perhaps. It at least gives the appearance of a conflict of interest. I don't think it's worth the headache, and I think it's detracting from a largely successful trip to the Middle East, which includes a lot of good things as far as expanding trade.
Now, that's what political spin looks like when it's trying really hard not to sound like spin. Even Rand Paul, who's basically MAGA's yoga instructor at this point, is doing verbal gymnastics to avoid saying what's obvious. A $400 million jet isn't a thank you card, it's a bribe with wings. And while he's too polite to scream it, he tiptoes right up to the truth. This gift reeked of conflict of interest, because if it waddles like corruption and tweets in all caps like Trump, guess what? It's, quote, corruption. And coming up, another hot question Trump really doesn't want answered.
He also said it's a perfectly legal transaction. Do you see it that way? I know you raised questions about the emoluments clause.
I think it sort of depends on how the transaction is set up. Is there a possibility that, could they donate it back to Boeing and Boeing sells it to us? There's a lot of ways this could be arranged, but I think what set up signals that people were concerned about was that it was going to be temporarily part of the government and then it was going to the president's library when the president retires. So I think all of those things could be fixed, could be corrected. There probably is a perfectly legal way, but right now it's raised more questions than I think it's worth.
So before Donald Trump starts screaming, investigate Kamala, probe Beyoncé from his gold-plated soapbox, just maybe he should glance in a mirror, because like I already told you, his own party is raising eyebrows about a sketchy $400 million jet gift that's somehow bouncing between Boeing, the government, and Trump's future presidential library/ego museum. You can practically hear the emoluments clause crying in the background. This isn't just bad optics, it could be corruption. So while Trump's playing celebrity conspiracy clue, let's listen to someone who actually has something real to say. Time to hear from the boss himself.
But things are happening right now that are altering the very nature of our country's democracy, and they're too important to ignore. So, first I want to thank you for indulging me. But in America, my home, they're persecuting people for their right to free speech and voicing their dissent. That's happening now. In America, the richest men are taking satisfaction in abandoning the world's poorest children to sickness and death. That's happening now.
Bruce Springsteen, ladies and gentlemen, not just a rock legend, but a truth cannon aimed directly at the hypocrisy of the powerful. When he speaks, it's not just a speech, it's an anthem. He's not afraid to name names, call out the corruption, and remind everyone what democracy is supposed to look like. And this wasn't just a drive-by truth bomb. Nope, the boss has more to say, and he's about to go even harder.
In my country, they're taking sadistic pleasure in the pain they inflict on loyal American workers. They're rolling back historic civil rights legislation that led to a more just society. They're abandoning our great allies and siding with dictators against those who are struggling for their freedoms. That's happening now. They are defunding American universities that won't bow down to their ideological demands. And they are removing residents off American streets without due process of law and deporting them to foreign detention centers and prisons. That's happening now.
This is Bruce Springsteen in full defense mode, not of himself, but of democracy itself. He's torching the cruelty, the chaos, and the corruption that Trump world wears like a badge of honor. This isn't hyperbole, it's a warning siren, and it's coming from one of the most respected voices in American culture. And if you thought that was powerful, the final part of Springsteen's speech is coming now.
A majority of our elected representatives have utterly failed to protect the American people from the abuses of an unfit president and a rogue government. They have no concern or idea of what it means to be deeply American. The America I've sung to you about for 50 years is real. And regardless of its many faults, it's a great country with a great people, and we will survive this moment.
This was more than a concert moment. It was a heartfelt wake-up call from someone who's been telling America's story for decades. Springsteen didn't yell, he didn't rage, he reflected, and what he said hit like a chord we've all felt, that something's gone off key in how this country is being run. He spoke not just to the chaos, but to the courage, not just to the division, but to the spirit that pulls people together. And he's right. America isn't perfect, but it's real, it's resilient, and it doesn't belong to just one person or party. We've seen the drama, we've lived through the noise, but we're still here, and we're not done yet. And speaking of drama, Trump's latest mess, it's next level. Click here to see what just happened.